everyone. Thought I would just jump online and check in, given we made quite a few announcements this afternoon as part of our response package to Omicron, and some of you may have missed that. Those announcements were made by COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins, but I thought I'd just cover off the main points here, and while I talk, I'll try and keep an eye on any of your comments, just to try and pick up on them as I go. Look, I imagine everyone will have seen all of the international reporting around the latest variant of COVID-19, Omicron, and the fact that at the moment we're still in a phase where we're learning about this new variant. What we know is that it is far more transmissible than what we've experienced before. But what we don't know yet is just whether or not it's creating more severe disease. And the reason we don't know that yet is just time. First reporting, of course, came through on Omicron in November. And there is always a lag in hospitalisations, and a lag where we know it does take a little bit longer to see whether or not what kind of impact a new variant is having. So it's a bit of a waiting game. While we're in that waiting game, though, we, of course, as I've said, have already seen that it is just more transmissible, and that's what all countries are reporting. And because of that, that's cause, excuse me, that's cause for the whole world to be concerned, because, of course, even if it is proven to be less severe, if you just have a larger number of people who have it, that has the risk of overwhelming your hospitals. So look, our view is that at this time, now is the time to actually just try and do what we can to keep Omicron at our borders and away from the community, while we learn, while we understand what challenges this presents, while we see what impact vaccines may or may not have. That's another quick point to make. At the moment, initial suggestions are that boosters will make a difference to Omicron, but 2 doses alone may not be quite sufficient. I was reading an article recently that described it as the first dose being like going to kindergarten for your body learning how to recognise the virus and take it on. The second dose is like primary school, and the third dose is like going to high school, that it gets your immune system and your response gets more sophisticated and can deal with variants more successfully. So that means that we've made a couple of decisions. I can assure you I'm very, very well and healthy. I just swallowed down my windpipe, so excuse the little cough there for a minute. So what we've decided to do in response is, firstly, make sure that we're doing everything we can at the border. So we were on a 7-day MIQ and 3 days of self-isolation at home. We've now just put it to 10 days still in MIQ, just to lessen the chance of Omicron getting into the community. And someone's just asking what about the fact that people are allowed to come here in the first place. So just to understand, just to respond to that, we can't stop citizens, and nor would we. We can't stop citizens from being able to come to New Zealand. Every citizen is legally entitled to come back to their homes. So what we're instead doing is doing everything we can to keep everyone safe by the way that we operate at the border. So 10 days of MIQ. We're asking our border workforce to get their booster jabs just to keep them safe. And we will also require those who are coming in to have their boosters in time as well. You'll know that we had some plans as part of our reconnecting work to allow, and so you're asking how people boarded in. They have pre-departure tests. They're all required to be vaccinated, but unfortunately, in the time that you have a pre-departure test, the time you get on a plane and come to New Zealand, it's always been possible for someone to contract COVID-19 during that period. That we've long experienced that. That's why we have managed isolation facilities in the first place. So the reconnecting work we had intended, of course, for people coming in from Australia from the 17th of January to be able to isolate at home. And we were also intending to allow those from the rest of the world to be able to do that from February as well. with Omicron, our viewers, we just need a bit more time, so that we're able to pick up the pace with booster jabs, and make sure that people have all the protection we can provide for potential Omicron cases, because it is unfortunately not a case of if but when. It is so, we're seeing it's so easily spread. So we're doing what we can to make sure we prepare. And so on boosters, and I'll come to your question there, Sandy, as well. So on boosters, at the moment there seems to be a bit of discussion and debate because over whether or not the booster is indeed what we do know is that it tops up your immunity. So we can see from all of the research that's been done that it basically takes you back to where you were after your second dose. So really good immunity, ready to go and ready to respond if you're exposed to COVID. What we don't know is whether or not actually the vaccine actually just requires 3 jabs, or whether or not it requires the boosters. And time will tell us that. But either way, the advice that we've had is that it's safe to do it with a shortened time period. So that's why we've made the decision that in order to make sure that people are well protected against Omicron, which we know the booster is necessary for, we're shortening that time down to 4 months. And many other countries are doing the same thing. Minister Chris Hipkins actually just got his a couple of days ago, and as I have over 200,000 New Zealanders who have already become eligible. So you'll be able to do that if you were vaccinated 4 months or more ago. From the 3rd of January, you'll be able to walk in to any vaccination centre to get your booster. If you want to book, you'll be able to do that a couple of weeks later, but walk-ins available from the 3rd of January. If your vaccine was more than 6 months ago, you can already go and get your booster. So that's a quick reminder there. Now look, I know there'll be a number of people who'll be interested in what's going to happen for 5 to 11-year-olds. So they previously haven't been eligible to be vaccinated. Our experts have given the thumbs up and approved the paediatric vaccine for 5 to 11s. So that will become available from the 17th of January. That's the decision around vaccine, of course, for children is entirely, and I'm going to speak to this directly because I've seen a lot of misinformation about this online, and I'm probably going to repeat this a number of times. The decision over whether or not someone's children is vaccinated is a parent's or a caregiver's. It is absolutely requires your consent. There is no mandate around children being vaccinated. It is up to a parent or a caregiver. So I just thought I would make that nice and clear again, but for those parents and caregivers who want to make sure that their children are offered that protection, they'll be able to do that from the 17th of January. I just seeing some responses here about people who really want to see family members offshore. I totally understand those in Australia and the like. And look, as I say, we've pushed out that self-isolation until the end of February. By that time, roughly 80% of New Zealanders will have been eligible to have had their booster. It means people will be have greater protection ready and available. So I know these decisions are really, really tough for everyone, and I just wanted to acknowledge that. Craig, an antigen level testing should be carried out first to identify when people need them. I'm not quite sure I understand the question, so I won't jump in to that. Amanda thinks I've aged. Merry Christmas to you too, Amanda. Someone's just asking about the 48-hour time frame before a plane trip. So look, many countries now, I believe, are asking for shortened time frames. We're certainly going to keep an eye on availability and whether or not that becomes prohibitive, but we're just trying to narrow down that time frame so that, of course, we just have a more accurate picture of whether or not someone's well enough to travel. So, look, try again, skimming through, lots of questions just about when people will be able to come back, and I totally understand that. But if you've asked about how can you give boosters out without even knowledge it will work, there is knowledge it will work. There is already evidence that boosters do provide a greater level of effectiveness against Omicron. What there is discussion about is whether or not there will be a need for ongoing boosters. So just to clarify there. Jess, you've asked, why do children need the vaccine? Same reason for others, essentially. But in particular, of course, we know that children have been a significant part of outbreaks offshore. When adults have been able to be vaccinated and children haven't, then it has been children that then become overrepresented in some of our case numbers. Okay. Sarah, you've just asked about people missing family, and I totally understand. You know, New Zealanders are so well connected to friends and family offshore. You know, as in all of us have people we know and we miss and we haven't seen, and so no one's going to diminish at all the impact of that. And I would find that incredibly hard if it was my parents offshore. I absolutely would. But we don't take these decisions lightly. And as I say, we've still pushed out to February, but with a view that that will put us in a safer and better position in the long run. All right, everyone. I think that I think I'll let you all go now. Again, just skimming as I go through to try, and I think I picked up most of the comments, but thank you very much for joining me. If I don't jump on for another Facebook Live before Christmas, I hope that you all stay safe, that you have a fantastic break. I just want more than anything for New Zealanders to have a summer and for them to be safe. So please look after yourselves, and a very Merry Christmas to you all. Ka kite.